Joining me today on GHC Coffee Break will be Joan Ledbetter, a great friend of mine, but also the Director of Advising at Georgia Highlands College. Get your coffee, we'll be right back.
I'm transferring to the University of West Georgia.
Columbia University,
Kennesaw State,
UGA, Loyola University in Chicago,
Grambling State,
Shorter University. I'm going to Greensboro College, and we all got our start at Georgia Highlands.
No matter where your educational journey takes you, you can get your start at Georgia Highlands College. Georgia Highlands College. Enroll, engage, excel.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. Joining me today is my good friend Joan Ledbetter, who is also the Director of Advising at Georgia Highlands College. And Joan and I have been talking a lot about, July is Make a Difference to a Child. And even though the students at Georgia Highlands are not children, they are still, I feel like all of the students that come into my life are my children, even if they're older than me, which I have that too. But, we do try to make a difference.
You're a nurturer, so I think everybody and anybody you're going to look at is that, mama hen take care of.
Yes, and sometimes too much probably, and that's why we're going to talk about this idea of mentoring, because when I look at working with students or working with children of all ages, I'm still a child at heart, believe me. I look at empowering as opposed to disabling, or enabling as opposed to disabling. Mm-hmm. And I know that you're working on your dissertation about mentorship. We're doing a lot of mentorship at the college and initiating programs for our students on mentorship, and faculty too. When new faculty come in, us old faculty try to mentor them as well. Good. But the importance of that and being careful not to make them too dependent. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to kind of let you start, Joan, and talk a little bit about mentorship, because this is your specialty area.
Well, I wouldn't say it's my specialty area by any means. I wish it were. When I was thinking about my dissertation really for years now, and as I approached it, I wanted to do it on career decision-making, self-efficacy. And that's a big deal to me, and there are a lot of things that go into that. But then when we started working on the mentor program that AAWCC started, and that's
tell everybody what AA.
I know it's a lot of letters. Sorry. The American Association of Women in Community Colleges. That it is a wonderful group. It's like AAUW, American Association of University Women, but for the community college level. And we have a chapter at GHC that's been active, done a lot of service projects over the years. Well, last year, Dr. Hershey had asked if we would consider doing more with the Women to Women group, something like that, because they needed folks to step in where they had some gaps. He does the brother to brother, and we have a woman to woman, but we'd lost some people that had been doing that. And so our group said yes, but we didn't want it to be just minorities, so we just started our own program. And so we have a mentoring program for women. And we send out an email, and they request a mentor, and then we do our best to match. So it's been kind of as we can, by the seat of our pants, but there's been a wonderful response. And a huge part of it is just the female students feeling like somebody really cares, and there's someone they can go to. They get a lot of help from it, but a lot of it is just the, wow, I really need the support, and thank you so much for being there for me kind of thing. So that's been wonderful. And so I decided, well, this needs to be evaluated, and we need help with this, so I'd really like to do my dissertation on it because it's important. So I'm going to interview the mentors and mentees and talk to them about their expectations. Make sure that that's a good match, what the mentors can provide and what the mentees need. So that's the crux of my research that I'll be doing shortly. But you have to have, as you know from doing yours, you have to have a theoretical framework. And there are lots of different things you could use, motivation theory, but that was a big one, self-efficacy, career decision making. But what I chose was mattering. and Nancy Schlossberg's mattering theory has to do with the importance of people feeling like they matter, that they're seen, that they are cared for, they're cared about, and this is a big one people often don't think about, that they're needed. People need to feel like they're needed.
Oh, absolutely.
And she has written a ton of different works, but largely focusing on adult learners and adults in transition, and talks about, and I know you know a lot about this from your career field, talks about older people and the need to feel needed, how it's often difficult for them to retire
Yes.
because then there's that major component of their life where they were needed. Children are grown, nobody needs them at work because they're out of, you know, that area of life, and then it's like, well, what do I do? And that's major. And you know, and I'm sure you work with that a great deal in human services and everything you do as far as people needing to feel like they matter.
And you know, I think I've shared you on a personal level with my daughter.
Yes.
She was, her second grade year was rough. We started thinking there was a little bit of a learning disability, and we transitioned to a new school on her third grade year. Well, I'm thinking I'm a proactive parent, and I tell the teacher I'm a little concerned. Well, this teacher took my little concern to the nth level of Felicia was stupid. Felicia, she still sucked her thumb. You know, she was in third grade. But I think there was a lot of stuff going on with Felicia at that time. But just tore her self-esteem down. Fourth grade year, good teacher. Fifth grade year, good teacher. Sixth grade was when the turnaround happened. That teacher understood that, yes, academics are absolutely critical. We want everybody to understand 1 + 1 = 2, not 5 or whatever. But she understood that Felicia needed her self-esteem first. When she began to build her self-esteem, her grades went up.
Oh, sure.
It wasn't that Felicia was not intelligent. She felt like, I think what you said, she didn't matter. It doesn't matter what I do for this teacher. She's not going to, in third grade, she's not going to be happy with me. She didn't really have that so much in fourth and fifth, but it still wasn't that teacher that understood the crux of the underlying self-esteem issue. And so it really did truly make a difference with Felicia, and it was just, I mean, the turnaround was amazing, Joan.
As you know, there's probably 10 big factors right there in your one story, because as you know, you want to work harder and do well and have someone proud of you if that's a person, you know, a good person that cares. So that makes a big difference, because she had somebody to achieve for.
Right.
She felt better about herself, so she didn't, you know, feel sad and bad and that she didn't want to do any work. And seems like a totally different area, but it's so related. There have been a lot of studies and research showing that the reason why a lot of students do better in some of the Asian countries is because they focus more on work and achievement. You do well because you've worked harder and you've kept at it, versus you're smarter or not smarter. And our country tends to be, you either got the smarts or you don't. And that's not the case, because we dismiss people early on. Oh, you know, first, second, third grade, you're not good in math. Well, you never will be. Whereas in some other countries, they say, no, you must work harder. And then they get it.
Yeah.
So it's a different mindset. But it makes a world of difference with all age levels if you show that you care. As you know, with your daughter, and I've seen the same thing with my son and with myself.
Oh, and a lot of the
friends.
students that come in, especially in our human services program, some of them are they're not your traditional students just getting out of high school. Some of them are, as you said, the older adults. Their self-esteem, I've noticed, it's it's really important to be supportive of them, because for many of them, they're the first generation college student. They had a job, but didn't have a career. The job or a plant maybe have closed. And when I look at mentorship, it's not just, yes, the academics is important. Obviously, we're higher education. we got to have the academics. I get it. However, when I look at mentorship, it goes or supporting or making a difference to a person. It goes beyond the academics. You're going to deal. Have you ever heard of the sources of strength?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just for people who may not have,
It's been a while. I've heard of it, but yes.
it's a program that really does emphasize. It actually came out of suicide intervention, prevention, and postvention. However, the model did not focus. What they focused on was the sources of strength, like access to mental health, access to health care, mentorship, what we're talking about, positive peers, and I think that's another really positive piece. Family, spirituality, not religiosity, spirituality, access to our healthy activities. So there's this model of how, if you can focus on the strengths, then people tend to do better. So that's kind of when I have a student in my office, we look at, okay, where are your strengths? You're going to know, sometimes unfortunately, about their finances, about their living arrangements. I mean, it really is a personal aspect of who they are. And if you can support them and help them build those strengths, so the academics come.
Yes, indeed, because you've taken away the negative junk, so now they can focus on the positive and get the work done. So I imagine all your students do well, and at the very least feel a whole lot better about themselves.
I hope so. I kind of look at the idea of paying it forward. I was a student here in the 80s. Had a wonderful mentor, Steve Burns. I'm sure you've heard the name. He died in 2002, I believe it was. But he was my friend later, but he was my mentor. And he's the one that said, oh, you've got to go on to Georgia State. And I thought, you're crazy. I am not college. I mean, when I first came in, I was not considering myself college material at all. I was a B.C. student. Oh, yeah. And I thought, can I do this? But I wanted it bad enough, and I had just the right teachers. And that's something to me about Georgia Highlands. The faculty and the staff at Georgia Highlands seem to genuinely care about the students, and that they are priority.
Whole people.
Yes.
Yeah, and what you're talking about, sources of strength, that's looking at the holistic, the whole person, not just one facet. Mm-hmm. And you were talking, it's just interesting. Everything all comes back to every facet of life in terms of caring, because when you're talking about all these areas, it just hit me. Emil Durkheim, as you know, the suicide theory. He worked on why people commit suicide, and then there are all these college retention involvement theorists, Tinto, Austin, others, Pascarella, and they use Durkheim's suicide theory to talk about why students leave college. That's a really big one. I think mainly of Tinto maybe, but he talks about they leave because they don't feel like they matter.
Right.
It all goes back to mattering.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crucial. And I guess the same thing is paying it forward. I recall, that math teacher that pulled my hair, said you skipped first grade, you'll never, do math. That's why you can't do it in front of the class. Literally, in the class in front of people, berated and physical. But then, and I didn't have very good self-esteem at all for a very long time. But then when you have professors, and I had some in college that said, yes, of course you can go to graduate school and you should do this, and were disappointed when I didn't score higher on a test, for entrance and that sort of thing. But when you have people that believe in you, then it's like, well, I can do it. Whereas if you don't, you're like, well, why try?
And we're going to leave with that, the why try. I'll let you think about it. Get your coffee. We'll be right back with GHC Coffee Break.
Hi, may I please have an application? Thank you.
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
Okay.
Take that first step towards a better future. Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to DHC Coffee Break. Again, joining me is Joan Ledbetter, as I said, a friend, a colleague, and also the director of our advising at Georgia Highlands. And we've been talking about mentorship and how effective it can be, and how effective, unfortunately, in a negative way, it can be when someone's not mentoring well.
That's a great point. And unfortunately, the literature talks about too that the physician's adage, do no harm.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's not even a point of doing harm or a matter of doing something bad necessarily, but the evidence shows, and it's kind of common sense, if you say you're going to be there for somebody and then you're not, it's worse than not having started to begin with because of the disappointment.
And I've always said there was something that recently came up with me on a personal level, that the person, was big talk. I'm going to do this. We're going to get this done. We're going to launch is about my book, launch this book and do all this. There was something in my head that kept going, this is, let's see if the rubber's going to meet the road. There's just something in the back of my head that he didn't seem genuine. Looking back, I said, I think maybe he was genuine. I just don't think he knew how to do what he was saying he wanted to do. All I wanted to say, tell me you can't. Don't avoid me. Just say, can't do it. Be honest with me. That's what I ask. I may not like your answer, but be honest. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about with this idea of mentorship. If you say you're going to be there and you're not, there are reasons sometimes people don't make appointments or whatever. I get that. And you let them know. But if it's a pattern, if they
disappear or they never appear,
right.
And it's not funny what you're saying, but I'm laughing because I've been carrying on for weeks. I've been carrying on to my husband because I had several people that said that they were going to do something with me and be on a team, and it's a volunteer team locally, but then nobody ever did anything, and they won't respond, and it's kind of like, I was a little disappointed with somebody early on, and I'd kind of prodded into it, and she said, well, I'm going to give you this material back because I really don't have time. And I'm just like, just be the courtesy. That was wonderful, but just give me the courtesy of letting me know. Mm-hmm. But nobody even responds. And so it's kind of like, why'd you say you would if you're not? So I would imagine if you've got a mentor that says, yes, I want to mentor you, and then they do nothing and they don't respond, then it's going to be like why try?
Right.
Because nobody's going to follow through. And you get a not bad attitude just about that person, but maybe about everybody. Or, you think nobody's going to be there for me.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Especially as someone that's already had bad experiences, we don't want to replicate that.
No, and I think that, and I think that's one reason why I like the idea and the model of the sources of strength is, and the idea of paying it forward with, there's a commercial that came out not too long ago, and I can't even remember what it was for, but somebody drops something and this guy picks it up, and then something along the way, somebody keeps him from getting hit by a car. You know what I'm talking about. And it's just this wonderful idea of
kind of
just
karma.
Yes, exactly. Just taking and making a difference, a positive difference. I can go around with a sour face all day long. It's easy to do because sometimes things, like you said, get overwhelming. But I have to make a conscious choice every morning when I get up to say, what can I do positive today? Doesn't mean I don't have negative things creep in and things that upset me and make me cry. But I try to be positive. And I could just as easily not try.
You're always positive.
No. Well, thank you, but I don't think so. You're not around me 24/7.
Well, but you show it, and something, if y'all don't know Susan, that she does, and it's highly appreciated, even though it may not be said or expressed the way most of us tend to not like we should. But she goes around and she makes everybody feel like they matter, and you do. You make everybody feel like they matter. And that's the greatest gift you can give everybody. You can walk around handing everybody $1 million. It's not going to make them happy. Might help. I like it. And you can do that.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Bring it on. but it doesn't make you happy inside.
Right.
But when you show people that they matter, that you care how they're feeling, and I don't want to make you cry, but it does a world of good. And something I was looking up last night, because I was looking at different surveys and doing some work, and some of the advisors, because we see a lot of students, and there aren't many of us, but when students send these, we call them love notes, when they send an appreciation, a thank you, some of us will keep them from time to time, and we share them with each other. And one fairly new advisor, bless her heart, she said, I just have to share with y'all, you know, it's been hard, I've been down lately, you know, I've just been so busy and it's been so much work, but this student wrote in about what the difference that she made. And then she had another one that came to see her, and she was so upset, and she cried, and she said she didn't know what to say or do, but she just listened. And the student walked out of there feeling relieved and better, and she just made a huge difference in that student's life, and it made her feel so good, and she had to share it with us.
Oh, absolutely.
She was just thrilled, but we have that from time to time. I mean, fairly often we have students say, oh, you just made the biggest difference, and thank you so much. Feeling like we matter and appreciated.
Yes, it goes both ways.
Makes a world of difference, and something we don't do enough. And I try to. I've written thank you notes here and there, not enough, but like when a flight attendant really helped me when I was sick, or when my brother died and I'm crying on the plane, I wrote to Delta about how good he was to me. But people don't often hear the thank you, and for doing your job, going above and beyond your job, for being there. And if you say thank you, people are going to want to do that more for other people.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting, and you know, I can't say I'm totally altruistic, because bottom line is I hope to make other people feel better, because it makes me feel
you feel
better. So,
I knew we had something going, because I've told people for years, when you do for other people, it is selfish. It is selfish.
it makes me feel good.
Because I enjoy it. You do volunteer work, you enjoy it, because it makes me feel good, and that's something we enjoy. But I mean, it's still a good thing. But yeah, it's for us too.
Oh, absolutely.
It feeds our soul.
Oh, totally. And one of the things with us, again, looking at the mentorship with the students that come through, they're going to remember that first impression. And I may be having a bad day, but if I don't kind of put that bad day down and say, okay, and a lot of times it's really taking breathing and getting focused. You said something a moment ago, listening. 90% of the students, I don't care if they're traditional, non-traditional, returning, it doesn't matter. Colleagues, friends, we want to be heard.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I look at a student, and in our culture, we have eye contact. We want to feel like somebody's listening to us if we make eye contact. So that is a nonverbal indicator of listening. But listening and being able to say, so what I hear you telling me is that you're married, you have 3 kids, you're working full time, you're struggling in math. So what will help you work through the things, what classes, let's look at what things, here's what you have to have. Now, what will help you most right now?
Make it work. And understand. And interestingly enough, because while the traditional age student does need a lot of support and help, and very, very important, people do often think, well, the older student, they're older, more mature, they've got it together. And actually, the students that responded were mainly non-traditional students that said they wanted a mentor. Haven't been in school in 10 years, 20 years. I need help. I need support. And that's been a really big deal and a big help.
I think so. We've got about 3 minutes roughly left, so I want to kind of hit on some things. I know time flies when you're having fun, right? And more coffee. I love it. But I think when we look at our programs at Georgia Highlands, advising, mentorship, is truly making students feel like they matter.
And they do.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's very evident when a student comes in and, oh, I met with Miss Joan or Miss Eileen, and they'll tell me what y'all told them, and they told me I need to come to see you because I want to be a human service major, and they were really good help. But they said, bottom line is Dr. C knows the human services program. But they tell me that contact that they've had with you or they've had with Eileen. And so that shows me and reminds me that I'm not always the first person that they see. I have wonderful colleagues that take care, and I call them my students because they're my students. I don't care. I don't care if they never end up in a class of mine. They're still my students.
They're all our students.
But you make a difference, Joan, and Eileen makes a difference, and
She does.
Don Green and Renville Waters. I mean, I could name 100 easy people in my repertoire of friendships, but the people at Georgia Highlands, we want to make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think through mentorship and really that contact, even in the middle and high school years too, that we do, is really critical.
Well, I know we don't have time, but I did want to mention that because our buddy Eileen Walker does what I wanted to do for years, the communities and schools mentoring, and that's crucial. That gets them a lot of support and encouragement early on, and they need that to feel like they can go to college.
Yes.
And succeed. And she's done that with students for years, and that's something once I get out of school and have more time, I want to do that with the younger students. It's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing we can kind of, to get ready to wrap up, but leave our viewers with. There's a lot of ways to get involved with mentorship.
And you can feel like you're making a difference every day, any day. You just smile at somebody and say good morning and how are you, because that contact makes that person feel like they matter.
I'm going to leave you, and it's an anonymous writer, but kind of leave us with a story. There was a man watching a little boy on the beach picking up starfish, and he was throwing them into the ocean. So he went down, you know the story, he went down and tapped the kid on the shoulder and said, "What are you doing?" The little boy says, "I'm saving these starfish." And the man looks around and goes, "How can, there's so many starfish on this beach, how can you, one little boy, make a difference?" And the little boy reached down and he picked up the starfish and he looked at it, and he reached back and he threw it in the ocean as far as he could, and he said, "I made a difference to that one."
Yeah, one at a time.
That one. And that's the motto of our Human Services program, making a difference, one starfish at a time. So thank you for joining us on Coffee Break. We'll be right back.
I'm transferring to the University of West Georgia.
Columbia University,
Kennesaw State,
UGA, Loyola University in Chicago,
Grambling State.
Shorter University. I'm going to Greensboro College, and we all got our start at Georgia Highlands.
No matter where your educational journey takes you, you can get your start at Georgia Highlands College. Georgia Highlands College. Enroll, engage, excel.
Welcome back to GHC Coffee Break. Joan, you have been a delight to have on the show. I love your sense of humor. I love your sense of caring. I think it's really important that we have it. Guys, there's a lot you can do. You can make a difference to one starfish. You can make a difference to one child. You can make a difference to one person. You know, it says make a difference to a child. I'm going to change it. I'm going to create a new one, make a difference to a person. Until next time on GHC Coffee Break, we'll be back.